Hey everybody, thanks very much for joining me today. My name's Gareth, aka the Irish Pixel on Twitter and various other social media platforms. And what a glorious day it is. So I'm going to show you how I went from this to this. Hopefully in a few easy steps. First thing I'm going to say before I show you how I do the editing side of things is that you just have to get outside. For me, it's sometimes quite a challenge to just go out and maybe just not have an idea and try and do some lovely photography. Mid-afternoon is not a good time to do photos, I get that, but it's a perfect time sometimes to do drone stuff because you get better shadows, higher contrasts. You can get to different levels, you can get slightly higher. So I'm going to talk you through how I've done this, at least the starting process. Everything after that is really about your choice and how you want your photo to look, how you want it to feel. You've got to remember that your photo is an expression of yourself. It's not necessarily an expression of myself. I'll give you the starting point, throw you in where you need to go, and then you can do the rest. Okay everybody, I'm going to try and keep this really easy. I'm self-taught, so I'll try and share what I've taught myself to you. Everything's imported into my Lightroom, and the first thing I'll do is I'll stack everything. I'll auto stack, and I normally have it to 5 seconds. That means that everything that's taken within 5 seconds is put in a nice little pile. Makes it a bit easier to see what you've got from the day. So the top 3 piles, they're the ones I'll be using for this image. In total there's 15 photographs, and they're all different exposures from the darkest to the lightest. I've done a previous video on RAW versus JPEG and building your own panos, and there is massive benefits in that, which I will show you. So literally just checking out the brightest one to see how it's looking, see what details in it. Now this is a thing within Lightroom. I'm not sure whether it's a glitch or what, but you can't build an HDR panorama from the stacks. You have to actually open the stacks out. So that's what I'm doing here. Whereas if you're just doing one HDR with a 5-stop AEB, you can literally right click it and click HDR and it will do it all, select all 5. But for some reason it doesn't work like that. So there you go. Now that looks a tiny bit weird because it's quite high. I've pushed the drone gimbal up very high at the top. It's making the clouds look a bit wonky. So I'm going to try spherical and cylindrical just to see how they look. I think spherical might not look so good. I think cylindrical is our choice, and that is based on the horizon and again the angles that I had the camera. So really like that. Let's go with that one, and this will generate our starting image. So this is where the fun starts to begin. Once the image pops up, shouldn't take too long. I've got quite a fast Mac, and there it is. So my normal process for this is to always crop, try and straighten everything up. Nothing worse than a wonky horizon, so I'll make sure it looks good. Next thing I'll do is I'll pump the shadows right up because it is an HDR and there's so much information in that file, and then I'm going to pull the highlights right back. So that is normally how I would start every single HDR image or a bracketed image actually. So just gonna have a quick look at the details, make sure I'm happy with that. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Considering nothing's been sharpened or anything's been done to the image yet. So my next step is I always add contrast to these images, and that is again because it's an HDR, it's very flat, so it lacks that information that a JPEG would give you. Now I want to say information, there's billions of information in there. JPEG is a compressed tiny file and it does all the legwork for you, which essentially doesn't give you the same kind of high quality finish. It can pass, of course, but it's not perfect. Next thing I'm going to do is create this radial grad filter at the top. So I position this where the sun is, and I zoom right out to 1:16 for this, because I want the sun to look brighter and the shadows to look darker. So I will pump this up, and I'll also add some warmth in there, and not really too much else. Then I'll zoom back into the image and then pull the exposure back. You're probably wondering, why am I pulling the exposure back? Well, all I've done really is take where the sun was or is, added that gradient filter, and that gives me the option to create the light as I saw it. So the next thing I'm going to do is start working on these little gradient filters, and these to me really are what start to build up the image. And this is where you can start to define how you want your image to look. So I select the areas that are already light, and you remember that everything the light touches has this warmth, and it's important to bring that warmth back, otherwise your image will remain very flat. I'm also aware that they're not necessarily called gradient filters, but I like to call them gradients and radials, so I call them gradials. The next thing I do is I start adding this warmth to the sky, because that's where the sun was actually pouring through, and there's a lot of lovely rays coming through those clouds in the distance. Really love that. So recently Adobe did this update to Classic CC, and they added this texture slider, so I'm gonna have a little play with that. It's it seems to give quite mixed results really. I mean, that looks alright. It's kind of like a dodge and burn and a sharpen and clarity and whatever else, but it does seem to be quite non-destructive. So I'm just gonna, anyway, leave that. Gonna go back to the gradient filters and just add another one in there, which will lift the shadows to the right hand side of the image. So the next thing I'm gonna very quickly look at is split toning. I do this to all my images. I do the highlights as a mid warm and the colds as a nice light blue. It just has that nice feel about the shadows. Then I'm going to do some sharpening, and then when I hold the option key it means I can mask it, and I'm sharpening quite high on this because they are raw images. You gotta remember this is 15 images together. Just check it's not too much. I don't want it being really destructive. And then in the next bit it starts to become really personal now, your taste. I mean, the images looks alright in terms of, you know, I could get away with posting that on social media and people will go, yeah, that's nice. But I want to keep pushing it and adding in my style and add in more things that I like. So I don't go too far over the top. I just start to look at the shadows, highlights, and really enhancing those and trying to recreate the way that I saw that scene at that time. And I think that's really important on the look of the image. It has to be the way I've seen it, not the way somebody else has seen it. So I feel like if you've got this far and you've followed what I've said so far, you will definitely have the foundation of a very strong image. Now, as I said earlier, if you want to see how I do the panos, I have actually got another video. I have posted the link in the description. Feel free to have a look at that, check it out, see what you think, and hopefully it gives you some tips on how to align the pano properly. And I'll show you live footage and how I take it. So I'm hoping that that will help. Okay, so I've literally just blasted into the future. And now I'm just doing a quick voiceover of the edit and sped it up. Otherwise it'll be on here for ages now. I honestly don't want to bore you senseless, but everything else now is really down to personal taste. As you can see, I'm just trying to bring out the highlights a bit more, and various other things just to make the image feel how I want it to feel. And then this was the before and after, as I showed you at the start of the video. Anyway, I hope that's been helpful. If it was a lot, it might be worth going back over it, but this is the starting point of all my images. I hope to see you soon, and have a good day.